So last week we talked about how fashion and the auto industry came together to create this beautiful partnership, and it's stuff that we continue to see here now 40, 50 years removed. And of course, me being the ADHD brain that I have, it got me just rabbit trailing about what cars are made out of and how expensive some of that stuff can be. So today, I'm going to showcase to you some of the most expensive materials we use to make cars today. What's up everybody, how's it going? My name is Nick Lanza. This is Car Rant, and if you're new around here, we do builds, we do reviews, and we talk about car stuff, car culture, and candid conversations about it. And if you're interested in any of that, please hit the subscribe button and let's dive in. To give a small preface, we have to understand that cars were originally carriages, hence where the word comes from. And back in the day, if you wanted to get around, you needed a coach builder to build you your carriage. In fact, that's where the Coach brand gets its iconography from. This in turn meant the use of very nice and expensive decorative woods. While the use of wood in cars is something that's entirely unseen, you might see wood still used in like a dash or some interior bits here and there. But we still have cars that are actually being made mostly out of wood. Enter the Morgan Motor Company. This car company uses wood entirely as a bespoke means of making their cars. They are some of the nicest cars I've ever seen. They're beautiful. They use really nice high-end leathers and wools and materials for their interior. But the part that stuck out to me was not just the dated vintage styling that I absolutely love, but the fact that they still use wood as part of their construction for their cars. Of course, I love the Roadster because it suits my style here a bit, but also they have some really interesting vehicles like this three-wheeler. So, exotic woods and stuff aside, what else is there as far as crazy, expensive construction materials? Well, everybody knows carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber.
It's a material that's very commonplace nowadays, but over 20 years ago, it was very rare, and of course, McLaren was one of the first to really dive in head first into carbon fiber. They developed the entire chassis of the McLaren F1 out of carbon fiber. While nowadays this is much more commonplace, it was a rare thing back then, and it paid off and paved the way for carbon fiber to be used in everything from medical equipment to sports equipment to the cars to even stuff as simple as accent pieces. Carbon fiber has a range of uses and also different grades of the material. You can have basic carbon fiber, you can now have carbon fiber reinforced with Kevlar, ones that have fancy gold threads added through it for heat resistance and things like that, and all the way up to aerospace degree stuff. Because of this, it has quite a wide range for its cost in sales. And while I didn't exactly put money on how much the wood for the Morgans were, because wood is a market just incredibly fluctuant, the carbon fiber market is a lot more straight and narrow. This can range anywhere from $15,000 to $16,000 per ton, all the way up to $30,000 a ton. It's kind of wild how expensive carbon fiber can actually get. And honestly, one of the more interesting aspects of the carbon fiber world was a concept car that came out around 2011 to 2012 called the Peugeot Onyx. And the carbon fiber part wasn't even the wildest thing about this car. You see, when it was unveiled, everyone was shocked at this bright copper bronze color on the front of the car because it was so contrasted with the rest of the dry carbon exterior, only to find out that it's made out of copper, straight up copper. The choice to use copper was meant purely out of artistry and knowing that it was going to patina nicely and turn the lovely shaded green that Our Lady Liberty in New York Harbor looks like. While we don't have exact numbers around how much the car weighed, how much of every material was used, things like that, we do know at the very least that it had a spanking good engine, making around 600 horsepower out of a hybrid diesel. Pretty intense stuff. We're guesstimating that it had probably around 1,000 pounds of copper in it because of circuitry, but also the fact that it used a ton of it on the exterior, and that's going to equal about almost $4,000 worth of just pure copper. It's pretty insane. And of course, a few honorable mentions would be stuff like spandex, which BMW used in the Gina concept. Pretty wild car. Would love to do a video about it in the future. To things like accent woods and accent materials like diamonds and other rare gems being used in the decoration of the vehicles. And while you might have other honorable mentions like exotic animal skins and things like that, for our next contender on the list, I wanted to talk about something that's in every single car on the planet made since the year 1990, unless it's been stolen. And that's palladium and platinum in your exhaust. You see, every car on the planet now needs to pass emissions regulations for the different countries and regions of the world that you would drive a car. While not every single car has good ones, they at least have some semblance of air scrubbing built into the exhaust in the form of a catalytic converter. These are made using some of the most expensive metals on Earth in the form of platinum and palladium. These metals have very specific properties that help them to kind of catch and absorb some of these harmful chemicals called hydrofluorocarbons from coming out of your exhaust. These metals trade at nearly $1,000 or more per ounce, which means that you're looking at, in a full pound of raw unmitigated material, north of $16,000 to $33,000 per pound of this stuff. It's more expensive than gold, which is currently at $22,000 and change per pound. And we still use that in circuit boards and stuff like that in some of our cars now because it has good semiconductor properties to it. But the biggest daddy of all of these metals has to be one that most people don't even realize what it is nor understand fully what it does until you do a lot more research. It's so rare, in fact, that it is 0.0002 parts per million in the entire Earth's crust. It's a fellow of the platinum metals group, and it's used from things like medical grade equipment and surgical stuff to the development of fiber optics and wiring in cars. That being rhodium. As I mentioned previously, this is an exceptionally hard to find element, and often we will get more of this stuff from working with platinum and palladium. And let's not forget that the medical uses for rhodium are incredibly valuable, as we need this stuff to do reparative surgery. It's used to coat and plate surgical equipment as well as implant material because it's biocompatible. In other words, your body is not going to reject this material in it because it's not being viewed as a foreign substance. This means that implants and reparative bone surgery, studs, stuff like that need this metal for a plating and a coating so that your body doesn't have a septic reaction to it. And that's just in the medical field, let alone everything else around us that utilizes this material, such as fiber optics. This stuff is $74,000 a pound, more than some of us make in a year for a single pound of this metal. And again, this is something that's commonplace now. It's used in our cars every day. Maybe now we'll have a better appreciation of how expensive some of these newer cars really are, given the rarity of some of the metals that's used in them. And again, this list doesn't even include lithium and silver because, well, those prices have changed a lot, given that in 2022, lithium was nearly $80,000 a ton, and now it's down to almost $13,000 a ton. And that's simply because the need and desire for EVs has really fallen off given how expensive it is, and of course, the ecological impact that mining for this material really has on the planet. So all that said, I hope you guys found this interesting and informative. If there's other topics that are similar to this that you would love for us to discuss, leave us a comment down below. Let us know. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on this subject as well. What do you think of some of these crazy substances? Do you know anyone that owns some of it? Do they even realize how much it's worth? Let us know. We'd love to have a discussion with you down in the comment section. And as always, love you guys. We appreciate each and every one of y'all. And without further ado, God bless y'all. Have a happy Thanksgiving to all of our American friends, and we'll see you on another episode. God bless and peace.